finally happening. I'm reading Heated Rivalry. I have seen literally everyone that I know, don't know reads romance, didn't know read romance, maybe has never read before in their life, is talking about Heated Rivalry. Both the book and the show has really taken over the internet and society, kind of. As I usually do, I am a little bit behind the trends, but I do still like to partake, so I will be reading Heated Rivalry. Now, romance, queer romance, not new to me. In fact, some of my favorite books last year fall into those categories. Sports romance, though, is a little newer for me, and hockey romance is something that I've never read before. So I'm really excited to dive in to this book and kind of see what all the hype is about. I historically find that most really hyped books are actually overhyped to me, so I'm excited to see if that falls into this. So we're going to read it. I'm going to give you my thoughts, and we'll go from there. Now, this will be a reading vlog, but I am trying out a new style with my reading vlogs because I am finding that I don't really want to, read and then stop and talk to the camera and let you know what I'm thinking and all of these things. I kind of just want to read and enjoy myself and then join back with you at the end and tell you how I'm feeling. So what I'm going to do instead is the first part of this video is just going to be reading montage. I'm still going to film bits and clips of me reading, hopefully some reactions here and there. So we're going to put all of those together from start to finish of me reading the book into the first part of this video. Then the second part of the video is going to be me coming back, doing a little bit of this, talking face to face with you via camera, and sharing my thoughts. How I'm going to make sure that I remember everything as a gal who has a very bad memory is that I have started a reading journal. And so in this journal, I kind of stop whenever I think of something that I want to write down, if I feel like the author has made an interesting point, if I'm really resonating with the characters, or if I can't believe that a character did a certain thing. Those will go down in the reading journal, and that's what I use to kind of keep track of what I want to mention when we come back later in the video and have a little chit-chat time. So that's how it's going to work. I will put a timestamp on the screen right here so that if you want to just skip the montage and get to me yapping, you can do that. It'll also be like a chapter or a timestamp in the description, and you can just click there too. So let's get to reading. Okay, I am officially done with Heated Rivalry. And I do have quite a few thoughts. I am going to try to consolidate them into something that actually makes sense, so bear with me. I took notes in my reading journal as I read, and I really like this journal because it has a really great setup for something like this. Just kind of an open page where I just kind of wrote thoughts and quotes as I was reading, and then this whole side is kind of about the review. So let's just start off with my general ratings of this book. And my overall rating, which may come as a surprise to some people, is a 4. Now I say this is a surprise because this book is so hyped. And pretty much everyone that I've seen read this book has given it 5 stars, 6 stars, infinity stars. It is, many people have said the best sports romance that they've read, the best queer romance that they've read, and I just don't think that that's true for me. Actually, I don't think it. I know it. There are so many better sports romances and queer romances that I have read that I feel did a better job of executing what this book was trying to execute. This book isn't a slow burn in the traditional sense that you see a slow burn, and particularly a rivals to lovers slow burn. The physical nature of this book, no slow burn. Insta lust, insta attraction, and almost insta sexual relationship, that from page 7. You're getting that? This is a really, really slow emotional burn. And you don't often see those two things existing separately, especially I feel in a rivals to lovers. So it was not done to me as well as it could have, particularly because I don't think that the stakes and the risk involved in their story was explained or even shown well enough to make it very clear on why the emotional connection took so long. Really, it wasn't until part 3, which is 70 or 75% into the book, that I really started to feel like I understood the characters well enough and the character development and their, not personalities. I do think that the author did a good job of explaining the stark differences in their personalities. Shane is definitely your nice guy, shy, kind of I want to say all American, but he's Canadian, so I guess all Canadian type of character, just good boy next door kind of guy. And Ilya definitely is the asshole, he's the hot guy who knows he's hot, and he's just gonna kind of use that to his advantage, and he's always making snarky remarks and definitely seen as the dick. And so I think we got that part of their personality, but it took so long to get any other piece of who they were and why they were that way. And I think I got more of Ilya's story than Shane's. Shane to me just seems like slightly anxious, shy guy who does have a coming out experience, whereas I think Ilya is way more clear about his sexuality from the beginning of the story through the end. Shane does have that experience of finding out, that he likes men, and is he gay, is he bisexual, and it takes him a while to kind of come to that understanding within himself, and then also come to that understanding and make decisions around, does he want to be in a relationship with a man? Does he want to be with Ilya? Does he want to share that with his friends and family in the world? And if so, how? So I think it just took a little too long for me to get to that point. And it just, by the way that people were talking about this book, I was like, oh, this is going to be great. The hype is so high, and I just don't think that the book matches the level of hype. Basically all of the kind of memes and content and videos and things around this book that talk about like the sweet little moments. Like there's like 3 of them. Like the hospital, tuna melts and ginger ale. Maybe that's it. Like I do think it was sweet. They can see us, Ilya, like we're not alone. That quote I thought was sweet. I wrote that down. There was a really funny moment with like loons. And the cottage, I think, was probably definitely the best parts of this book. But it just took too long to get there. Like we had to assume too much of the level of risk, and I don't think that the author showed or told that to us well enough consistently through the story. I will say that, you know, a couple of the comments that I wrote down just generally are like, wow, I can't believe that this relationship that they had, you know, has gone on for years. Like you get that in the prologue. It's like the prologue starts, I think, 7 years into their relationship, and then as the story itself begins, you kind of jump back to how it began. And so I wrote, what a terrible thing to have to hide who you are for years. And I do think that is something good that this book does, and that I'm excited that it is as hyped as it is, because I do think that we don't see enough people reading queer stories, and particularly queer romance stories. And my hope is that because this book is so hyped, it can really start to have people understand how shitty and sucky our society can be for people who don't fit traditional molds of what society says is acceptable and not. And I hope that people can, you know, see more than just like the intense sexual attraction and relationship between Shane and Ilya, and really start to piece together like, wow, because of society, they had to hide who they were, particularly because of how sports views queerness. They had to hide not only their like relationship with one another and their love for one another, but had to hide huge parts of who they are because of fear and stereotypes and fear of like being judged as a person, but also like not being able to play hockey and losing something that is really important to both of them. So that was interesting, but again, I don't think the author like made that clear enough, and so I do worry that so much of the hype around this is purely around the romantic and sexual elements of the relationship, and not necessarily on like the development of pushing against the stereotype of queerness in sports. I did also write, though, that, you know, one of my favorite parts and the thing that I'm going to take away probably the most from this is that love is a brave and courageous thing. It's a brave choice. And it can be really hard to choose love, especially when love doesn't fit a stereotype or what people think it should be. It can be really hard to choose love over choosing what's easy and what's comfortable and what's expected. But it can become easier to make those hard choices when someone models it for you, when you get to do it in community, when you have people alongside you. And that was a big part of this story is Elia and Shane have this moment where they witness someone else's brave moment and brave story around them being gay, and it inspires them to think, okay, what actually is possible? We've been thinking of this as like a complete impossibility for us to be together and to share that with the world, but this person is showing us that it's not. So how can we kind of reimagine and reconfigure in our own minds what is possible and what's not? And I think that's when we really start to see the story progress for me. We immediately go into part 3 right after that moment. And that's what I really feel was like the meatiest, most beautiful part of this book. Okay, so I think that's all my thoughts. Basically, overhyped. Did I like it? Sure. Do I think that there are better books out there that do what this author was trying to do, but do it way more successfully? Yes, I do. And so much so that I actually am going to be making a display at my library. If you didn't know, I work part-time at my local public library, and I am now at the point in my tenure where I can start putting together displays that we put on the floor each month. And so I'm going to be putting together a display. I want to call it Books Better Than Heated Rivalry, but I think that's too far. I think that's a little too far. And not all of the books that I'm putting on the display are books that I have read and vetted and can say that it's better than Heated Rivalry. So I think I'm going to call it Heated Rivalry Withdrawals. For the people who loved the story and are looking for something else in that kind of arena, I want to give some recommendations and suggestions. And I think this is a beautiful way to kind of use public libraries and library workers and kind of build that community and get people into libraries and give them a starting point for something that they're interested in to continue on their journey. So yeah, I'm going to be doing queer romances, queer sports romances, but I really want to also be broader in this. You know, like I don't want it to just be romance books. I'm going to be having some fiction books in there as well, nonfiction books about like coming out. And I think that one of the themes that I loved in Heated Rivalry was the sharing of stories and empowerment and bravery. And so telling stories about that. There's going to be poetry books, all sorts of things. And I also want to make sure that it's super diverse in both the types of authors who write the books, but then also the characters themselves. So I have a pretty big list so far, but I need like over 100 books to add to this display. So if you have any recommendations, please leave them in the comments below. And I will hopefully be able to put it as part of the display. All right, my friends, thank you as always for coming and listening to me yap about books. It's our favorite thing to do. I will see you in the next one. Bye. Okay, wait. So I actually literally just ended filming that video. I get on social media. I see that another book from Rachel Reed was just announced, and it is actually the third book in Ilya and Shane's story. And I think that these like next two books in their story as part of the Game Changer series. So wait, let me back up. I'm ADHDing right now. Okay. So if you didn't know, Heated Rivalry is actually book number 2 in an interconnected standalone series called the Game Changer series by Rachel Reed. I probably should have said that at the beginning of the video, but again, ADHD. So this story, Heated Rivalry, follows Shane and Ilya. The Long Game, which is book 6 in that Game Changer series, is the follow-up to Shane and Ilya's story. And then the third book is a continuation after that, the book that was just announced. And in the description of this book, which by the way, if you don't want it to be ruined and you haven't read Heated Rivalry or Long Game yet, then don't read the description of Unrivaled, the new book, because it will spoil basically everything for those two books. It seems from the description to be doing what I hoped Heated Rivalry would do and having the types of conversations that I was really looking to have happen in Heated Rivalry. It seems like it is happening more in Unrivaled and maybe more in Long Game, which I haven't read. So, all that to say, maybe we're getting what I'm looking for, but I do still think Heated Rivalry was overhyped. But now I'm like, do I need to read Long Game so that I'm prepared for Unrivaled when it comes out? Do I need to watch the show? Let me know. I'm asking you guys to comment a lot of things down below, but please do. Your girl needs help. Okay. Thanks. Okay, actually love you. Bye-bye.